Okay, we actually have 3 more examples to go, so let's start with example 5. It says when Barbara used her car for business, she must keep accurate records so that she will be reimbursed for her car expenses. When she started her trip, the odometer read 23,787.8 miles. And when she ended the trip, it read 24,108.6 miles. Barbara's car gets 32 miles to the gallon. Her tank was full at the beginning of the trip, and when she filled her tank, it cost her $40.10. What price did she pay for a price per gallon for her trip? Now, the first step that we need to do is we need to find out how many miles she drove. So we're going to subtract the beginning miles from the ending miles. And when we do that, we end up with 320.8 miles is how much she drove for this trip. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take that and divide those 320.8 miles by how many miles she gets per gallon, which is the 32 miles per gallon. And when we get that, we get 10.025. Last, we need to take the total cost to fill up her tank, which was the 4010, and we're going to divide it by the 10.025. And when we do that, we find out that she paid $4 per gallon for gas. All right, please press pause. Go ahead and solve this and come back when you're ready. All right, let's see how you did. So it says, suppose a person began a trip with an A miles, ends with B miles. It gets C miles per gallon, and the fill up of the gas was D miles. So let's go through the steps we just did. The first step was to subtract the end and the beginning. Then we divided it by the gallons, the miles per gallon that she gets, and then we take that whole thing and divide it by the cost per gas. And there's your answer. All right, example 6, it says David is driving in Mexico on his vacation, and he notices that it costs 8.5 Mexican pesos per liter. What equivalent is this in US dollars? Well, we need to know some conversion rates, and these were the conversion rates at the time that the book was written. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a current one, but you are still going to understand the process. So at that time, $1 was the equivalent to 13.3 pesos. And so looking at that, we also need to understand that 1 gallon equals 3.8 liters. So these are some conversions we're going to use over the next 2 examples, so keep that handy. So the first step is we need to go ahead and take our 850 and we're going to divide it by the 13.3 pesos. Because one of those is 13.3, we've got to get what the conversion rate is. So it's 64 cents per liter. The next step, we're going to take that 64 cents and we're going to multiply it by the 3.8 liters to get that converted over into gallons. And we see that she paid $2.43 per gallon. All right, please press pause, solve this. When you're ready, come back. Okay, let's see how you did. So the first thing that it says here is $1 is the equivalent to 1.07 Canadian dollars. So when we build this, we can build it as a proportion. And so we're saying, we're looking to find out what the equivalent is in US currency. So we know 1 US dollar equals what in Canadians. And we know that it's, so if we do this as US dollars over Canadian dollars, we get 1 over X equals, and it's going to be the 128 for US dollars. Actually, I apologize. It's going to be 107 over the 128. If we cross multiply that, we get 1.07 times that Canadian dollar equals 1.28. We're going to divide both sides by the 1.07, and we get that it was $1.20 in US currency. We then multiply that by the 3.8 for the liters, and we end up with $4.56 per gallon for gas. All right, number 7, it says David knows that the price of gas in his hometown is about $2.90 per gallon. How can he compare this price to the price in example 6 for a liter? So the first thing we need to do is we're going to take that $2.90 and we're going to divide it by 3.8 liters. And we end up with 0.76. Now, we know so far that it was, going back on our previous example, in Mexico, it was 64 cents per gallon. But that price in America would be the equivalent of 76 cents per gallon. So we already know that gas is actually less expensive in Mexico, but let's see what the price difference is. We know that it was $8.50 in Mexico because we already did that conversion. So let's look and see if we take the 0.76 and we multiply it by the 13.3 pesos. We get that it was $10.11 if purchased in the U.S. So what can we say, or how can we compare it? We can say that gas is less expensive, at least for this example, in Mexico. All right, please press pause, solve this last example, and then we'll be done. All right, let's see how you did. It says in example 6, check your understanding. Angie knows that the price of gas in her hometown was $2.50 per gallon. What is the equivalent price in Canadian dollars per liter? So we've got to do two conversions here. First thing we're going to do is take our $2.50 per gallon, and we're going to convert that over to the liters by dividing by 3.8. And we get about 66 gallons in there. We're then going to take that and multiply by that Canadian cost, which was 1.07, and we find that it's about 70 cents per liter in Canada. And we're done with this lesson.